Hey, everybody. Happy Sunday. I'm playing with StreamYards again, and lo and behold, my countdown timer didn't work, but that's okay. Happy Sunday to everybody that's joining us. Thank you for being in here. We're going to have a very candid discussion today, and I'm going to keep it together. This has been a very difficult journey and a very important one, and I know that there's a lot of supporters out there that have followed the story of Steve Olson, also known as our buddy Cowboy, and there's not going to be a lot of people in here today. I get that, because these topics aren't as polarizing for some who prefer a lot of drama and splash on YouTube, but this is going to be a documentation of history. It truly is. And we're going to go through the details of how things have evolved with Cowboy's death. And today, I am super honored to have these gals here with me today, because having these kinds of relationships with family of those that live homeless on the streets is incredibly important. So with us today is Starla, that is Cowboy's ex-wife, and Destiny. Beautiful Destiny, Steve's daughter. And for those of you that are just tuning in and are new, because I've put this out there in a lot of places, you might not know what the background is or the story of anything, really. So this channel documents homelessness, and I have a nonprofit, and I work very hard to help those living on the street get into a better situation, those that want the help. And through my work, it's important to note that the number one piece that you have to have in this work is relationship building with the people that you are trying to help. So it's unavoidable to have a sometimes very deep connection with the people out on the streets if your true intent is to help them. You don't come into somebody's life and say, hey, you're doing things wrong. You should do it differently. Like a large faction of the population that has really tainted and distorted views about homelessness. So with that, we're going to have this discussion today about how we came into contact and what life was like for Destiny to learn about her dad living on the street. Destiny's a very young lady. And I just want to say right off the bat, if I had a daughter, I'd want her to be just like this sweet little lady. Thumbs up, Mom.
Thank you.
And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. This young gal is doing life in a way that would make any parent proud. And I know that her dad was exceptionally proud of her. I know that her dad had a lot of regrets. I do know that. And Steve and I had a lot of conversations about things that needed to be different. And guess what? He was trying. He was definitely trying. So with that, I want to just kind of look at the chat for just a minute and make some ground rules very clear on my channel. The First Amendment is specifically for the government. You are not granted First Amendment rights on my platform. Do not come in here and disparage anyone on this panel, including Steve, my friend. If you want to go off on what an absolutely horrible person I am, send me an email. I get them daily, okay? Because you're not going to have a platform here. My mods run the show. They all know how to run the show, and I want to give a shout out to my mods. They are all vested in my work. They are honest mods. They are here for the right reasons, not to disparage and be dishonest and control. So if you've been timed out and or banned from the channel and you think it was a mistake, go ahead and send me an email. Make sure you've got your facts straight. And so if my mods made a mistake, we can clear that up and unblock you from my channel. But YouTube is a weird place. We all know that. And it's hard to have heart-to-heart discussions on a platform where there's a lot of trolling and stealing of content and trying to make money off other people's content for nefarious reasons. It is what it is. I, however, appreciate the platform because without it, we wouldn't be here today. And I wouldn't have the mods that I have. I wouldn't have the financial backing of my nonprofit that I have at this time. I will say just one little snippet I'm going to put out there. For those of you that are using my nonprofit in a disparaging way to claim that I am committing fraud or stealing, here's your one notice. If my donations are affected, I'm coming after you for defamation. So for those of you locally and across the country that decide to get on YouTube and use my friends and my homeless community as your platform to disparage my nonprofit, I will win in court, okay? Because I am keeping copious notes. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. And that's all I'm going to say on that. So we have it's about 67 people in here right now, and that's okay. I am Amanda's one of my mods in here. Destiny, Amanda, I want you to just kind of virtually meet Amanda. She is the one that sent you your wind chime.
The wind chime.
Thank you so very much.
Yeah. So, okay. So we've got Irish Rover, Aurora Transparency, Amanda, and I think that's it for mods in here right now. So you guys are running the chat. I'm not gonna pay a lot of attention to the chat unless we have a valid question, and we'll put that up here for discussion. But we've done these introductions. I just want to say that Starla is the reason we're here. She saw me on YouTube. She reached out to me. And she said, "Hey, I'm Cowboys' ex-wife, and here's the deal." And our relationship has grown from there. I'm honored to call these two my friends. I will advocate for them as long as they want me to. The things we're doing together, and I have the permission of the next of kin. But Starla, I want you to just kind of give a brief intro into your thoughts about anything you really want to say about Steve and how we came to know each other. So it's you.
You know, I talk to Steve once in a while, periodically, whenever he'd have a phone or he'd hit me up on Facebook Messenger. And just out of the blue, he got a hold of me and he said, "You got to get in contact with this lady." And I, of course, I'm going to question, well, who and why? And he kind of explained, he just said, "You need to watch this." So I got on and I watched the one where you guys were in the car. And I don't remember what the content was about, but Steve was being Steve. And that's when I contacted you and kind of just went from there. Give you a little background history on who he was, the person that I knew and met. And then came Destiny.
And if anybody's interested, when we're done here, if you want to go look at my last video that was published, there's a lot of snippets of Steve's life in that video. And it's the last video that I published under videos. And I haven't had it. I cannot make another video right now. That video needs to stay front and center of my channel right now until I can wade through some of this grieving and the questions that we have. So you can see a lot of pictures that Starla shared with me with Steve and Destiny. So Destiny, what do you want to tell us, hon?
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. And I want to thank you. You're very special to us. And I appreciate you so very much. And I know my dad appreciated you so very much. Even though he was not the easiest person to get through to, you still did it. And I just want to thank you for still supporting me and still being there for us. And we really appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
And, they say that you come into people's lives for a reason or a season or a lifetime. We came into each other's lives for a reason. There's that. We've all already been through a few seasons, right?
Yeah.
So we're in it for a lifetime.
Yep.
And this is a very special relationship for me and the work that I do, because out on the streets, I always ask my friends, hey, look, where's your family? You want to talk about any of that? I'll let them own that. They'll say yay or nay. Some of them say absolutely not. Most of them open up. And I always say, could you please just at least give me some contact information for somebody in case there's an emergency? And I am never disrespectful to their wishes. If they give me information and tell me not to contact them, I'm not going to do it. But if they've passed away or there's a medical emergency, yeah, I'm going to call their family. I am. Because these people are loved out here, and some of them are lost and have never been able to reconnect with their families. And I really think that was the case here with Steve. And I think a lot of my pushing, gentle pushing, having known Steve since about 2020, saying to him, hey, when we were at a juncture in our relationship where I could say these things to him, hey, what about your daughter? What about this grandbaby? And Steve's upbringing, grew up on a ranch, is number one of how many children?
7.
7.
7?
Yeah.
Steve is number 7, right?
No, he's number.
He's the oldest. No.
He may be the oldest, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So a lot of expectations from his dad, right? I mean, this is ranch family out in Kiowa County, Colorado. Grew up, rough and tumble. We don't talk about feelings. If we're sick, we get through it. And we don't really talk about that. And you take care of yourself and mind your business, right? Am I wrong? Am I
right?
Yeah.
You're right.
That's when Starla came into his life, right?
Yep.
And so they had Destiny and separated shortly after. There's always this elephant in the room about homelessness and drug use. And we're not going to sugarcoat any of this about Cowboy. However, I will say that I know firsthand experience, Cowboy was not deep into street drugs. Okay. This man lived on the streets and would fight his way through anything. I tried to put this man in a motel in 10 below weather. He told me, no, I'm not going to a motel. I'm not leaving my stuff. We're swept all the time. People are always out here stealing stuff. I'm not doing that. And I'd say to him, do you want to get off the streets, Cowboy? Well, yeah, but there's going to be expectations and this and that. Otherwise, just leave me alone. I survived just fine. Steve had a head injury. Okay. And from what I can surmise between him and others out here on the streets, you don't ever know someone's story as to why they turned to hard drugs. I know Steve's story. There were a lot of things around that head injury. Starla, do you want to add anything? Am I on cue?
No, you're correct. It happened when he was in college down in Arizona. He fell out of the bed of a truck and he had a metal plate on the whole side of his head. He was supposed to take medication for a long time, and he did. But it started causing a lot of issues, suicidal ideations, and anybody that knows Steve as well as we do That's not an option for him. He was a fighter. And so he fought through that. And he quit taking his medication. And unfortunately, I think that's what led him to the use of drugs, is to cover the pain that he was dealing with. And I think that's where a lot of it stemmed from. But no, you're right. He was pretty stubborn. So Steve was going to do what he wanted to do.
And just a little more background for those of you that are listening and new to the story. And if we're missing anything, feel free to ask if there's something that doesn't mesh up or we're missing something. Put a comment in there and we'll try to bring it up. Yeah, thank you for our transparency. Head injuries change your whole being. Yeah, they definitely do. But Steve didn't come from ill means. He came from a very successful family financially. And, I think there was pride issues. I think there were expectations that Steve couldn't meet with his dad and definitely his brother, who I'm going to add right now is the executor of the Olson estate. I know Steve pretty deeply. And this brother doesn't like his brother. And if I had to be as blunt as his brother has been in other communications, his brother couldn't wait for the day Steve died. And it's very sad because there was money owed to Steve. There were estate issues that I could never fully get help for Steve. I have so much unfinished business with him. And now that unfinished business is going to shift to me supporting Destiny in every way, shape, and form that I possibly can. And Destiny and I talked about a few questions earlier today, and I'm just gonna ask these again of you, Destiny. The last time you physically saw your dad?
I was 13. I am 24 now. For those of you who don't know, I'm 24 years old. I live a couple hours away from where he lived. My mom was going up to Kansas, so they dropped me off with my dad up in Inglewood, where he was living before he became homeless, with my aunt and uncle that have disabilities. So he was there taking care of them. So I stayed with them for a week. And that was the last time that I ever saw my dad in person and physically got to talk to him and give him a hug bye.
At the age of 13.
13. Yep.
You guys, we were this close to them reuniting and Steve getting to meet Destiny's beautiful little daughter, his granddaughter. We were this close. And you're going to learn how close we were. I mean, we were within hours close before he passed away. We're going to talk about that a little more down the road here. So your earliest memories of your dad, how old were you? Oh, so you were 13 when you learned.
Oh yeah, I was. Yeah, so I have that. I have the questions pulled up here on my phone. So
okay. Yeah, you just go through those and answer those how you want.
Okay, my earliest memory of my dad, I don't really know how old I was, but I remember him being there for my first day of kindergarten, and I remember he drove me to McDonald's, and he had come down here from Denver, and he drove me to McDonald's to get ice cream, and I remember that just so clearly. And then I remember kindergarten, and I remember he lived with us at my mom and I's house for a little while, but I can't really remember how old I was. It's pretty young though. Kindergarten's like what, 5, 6? Yeah, 5 or 6, yeah. And then the next question was, what went through my mind? Was I determined to reunite with my dad? And yes, I was. I was very determined. growing up without my dad has really put, I wouldn't really say a damper, but something in my mind of like, why did my dad never want me? Like, I had all these questions that I will never have answers to now, but I've always wanted my dad in my life. He would always have like different Facebook profiles, and I know him being homeless, he didn't always have Wi-Fi to use his phone, but I would always message those profiles, just tell him I was thinking about him, and here's my number, call me when you get a chance. And for the last, I would say, 5 or 6 months since before he passed away, we would talk like once or twice a week just about random things. And the last phone call that I got from him was Thursday morning. He called to tell me to not wash my car because it was going to rain. And that was it. That was the last conversation I had with him. And then
that was the Thursday. I just would add that was the Thursday before we learned that Steve had actually died. We didn't learn that till Tuesday, but more about that. So that's the last conversation she had with her dad was on a Thursday.
And the last question was, I don't think as if my dad wrote anybody off. I just think that maybe he was ashamed of who he had become. And maybe he didn't want to have us carry, or especially me, carry the burden of my father being homeless and his drug use. He wasn't like an active drug user my whole life. I knew that he did drugs, but not like a repetitive drug user, you know?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
when you say your dad did drugs, what did you think that entailed? And at what age were you processing that?
I didn't know really what it was, but I was really young when I knew that because he was doing drugs with some of my family members. So that's where it really all stemmed from, I feel like. And
beyond like weed.
Yeah.
I mean,
right. Definitely beyond weed. Yeah. But being so young, I was so oblivious to it. I didn't know a difference being young, but now that I'm older, I look back on that and I'm like, that is what was going on. Absolutely. And I don't think that he wrote us off because he didn't want us a part of his life. I just think he couldn't. Maybe he was just embarrassed and thought that we didn't care about him or that I didn't care about him. Yeah.
How did you? I think this was all because of your mom. But how did you start talking to your dad again?
Through you, I'm pretty sure. I reached out to him on his Facebook, and he ended up calling me on Facebook Messenger. And I told him I couldn't hear him, so I gave him my phone number.
Do you remember when that was?
Oh gosh, no. It was
within the last year.
Yeah, it was right around like January, I want to say, because he would always call me for my birthday, but it would never be on my actual birthday. It would be like a couple days before or a couple days after.
He had it kind of right.
In that range, yeah.
Right. He knew it. He knew that he needed to do that. Mm-hmm. But we didn't really start having really these in-depth conversations with him again till like the beginning of this year, right? Mm-hmm. Starla, yeah. I would agree, like the three of us.
Yeah. Yep.
But I had been pestering, if you will. I'd been pestering him, and I think one of the things even that I had said to you, Destiny, within the last 2 to 3 months was reminding you that you were his only next of kin, mm-hmm. right?
Yep. So
things probably kind of started to sink in, mm-hmm. I think, with Steve when I reminded him of that. And I think I can remember this conversation I had with him about flat out asking him, you want your daughter to have to know you're dead out here?
Yep.
We had a lot of very candid conversations, he and I. And sometimes he'd get kind of mad. And he did some pretty, he said some pretty hurtful stuff. And did you ever go through anything like that with him, Destiny?
No, just like hanging up on me when we were on the phone, when I would try to
intentionally?
Yeah, because he was mad. He said, I gotta go before I say mean stuff. And he would hang up the phone on me. And then he would call a little later and say, I'm sorry. And then our conversation.
Would he?
Yeah.
Did that man know how to apologize? Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
He would apologize to me.
Well, I certainly am glad that he did what I kept pestering him to do and get in your life the right way, Destiny. So we had some, Starla, we had some good effect there, right?
Right, correct.
Yeah. So fast forward to us learning that he had passed away. I want to give some context to this because people need to know why he was in a motel. So in my video, if you go watch that, you'll see Steve talking to the cops over and over and over about being swept. Him, along with others, just swept nonstop, okay? With nowhere to go. I went to jail during a sweep. Cowboy said, I'm not leaving. I said, all right, Cowboy, well, guess I'll be over here in my tent too, because I'm going to advocate for you. I'm going to advocate for you. So that particular day, I went to jail. Cowboy got a motel room from the cops. It worked out great, okay? But they kept doing this over and over and over, and it wasn't funny. It just wasn't. And Steve would lose everything. And this man could go scrap and find anything to survive with. He could wheel and deal. He'd find things that he'd go trade so he could get a good tent, so he could get boots, whatever this guy had to do to survive. He figured it out. I rarely had to come to any situation to rescue him from a lack of survival. Okay, this man had it all. And this city government knew exactly who he was. Inglewood city government knew exactly who he was. Just a small snippet to back up. Destiny said that she got in touch, went to stay with her dad when he was living in Inglewood. Well, he was living in a house owned by the family. And unbeknownst to his brother, who is convinced that Cowboy got their house condemned, it's actually the Inglewood city government that had a really bad habit of going after people that they wanted to take down. And Steve was one of them because Steve was a partier. And neighbors complained. So code enforcement made it so that they were condemning that family-owned house. And instead of Cowboy's brother taking charge of what government was attempting to do, he, of course, blamed Steve. It was all his fault, right? That's when Steve became homeless, is when Inglewood was swooping in on that property. Okay, I want to make that very clear. So Cowboy was homeless. He didn't care. He was going to go survive. And that he did for years and years and years out here. So the context of why he ended up in a motel in Adams County, Colorado, after the bulk of where he was homeless was in Inglewood and Denver, which is way far away from Adams County. They stuffed Cowboy in a motel in downtown Denver during COVID. And they said, all you people stay here. We don't want to see you. We're not really going to give you the things that are needed here in this motel. We're going to tell you that we're doing case management here. We're going to work on housing for you. We're going to do all these wonderful things for you. Well, they never did. Okay? Surprise, surprise. Then the contract with the motel downtown was up. So Denver had to find somewhere else for all of these homeless individuals that they stuffed away in a motel. They sure as hell weren't going to get caught red-handed putting them back out on the street because enough advocates, enough of us were involved. So HOST, which is one of Denver's programs, they have the hundreds of millions of dollars for housing issues, took this group of people that they couldn't find housing for or didn't bother to even start a process for them. Steve was one of them. And they went and worked some deal with this motel off of 58th and I-25. For those of you that are local, it's the Super 8. over at 58th and I-25, and there is not jack shit over there. It is a horrible hub for violence, for prostitution, drugs, everything right there in that little epicenter. Why they would ever think this made sense to go pluck these people into that motel only has to do with this, okay? So that is how Steve ended up at this motel back in April-ish, after the first of the year. He would call me and tell me how horrible it was there. I'd say, Cowboy, please just stay put until we, meaning me and another caseworker through Colorado Coalition of the Homeless, which has nothing to do with Denver or any of the money associated with that programming. And I'm very furious about this because they literally stuffed those people over there and then put no checks and balances in place to check up on these people. That man lay dead in that room for a minimum of 2 days because of Denver's programming. And I'm pissed off about it immensely. It did not have to happen that way. That's how Steve ended up at that motel. Destiny, how did we find out that Steve had died?
It was a Tuesday. I was at work. I got a knock on my door, and I have a camera, like a Ring camera, and it was a Mesa County Sheriff's officer. And I asked him to call me because I couldn't hear him. I gave him my phone number through the camera. He gave me a call. He said, "This is so-and-so with the police department. Are you Destiny Olson?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Is Stephen Olson your dad?" And I said, "Yes." "Why? Like, what's going on?" And he said, "I need you to call Adams County Coroner office. Adams County Coroner office. Your father was found deceased. Here's the phone number. I am so sorry for your loss." And he left it at that.
Okay. Right there, that should have never happened. Because this programming that Steve was in should have had an emergency contact.
Mm-hmm.
For that programming to call the family so they could, at least in some semblance of compassion and empathy, say to this young woman, "We were trying to get your dad into a position. We had him here at this motel. We apologize that we have to inform you that your dad passed away." No, we can't have that. We can't have that. We have to have days go by that the man lays dead in a room, and the only reason he was found because people were complaining about the smell. Destiny immediately called. She did not immediately call me. Starla sent me a text. I can't remember exactly what the wording was, but I knew. The way she worded it, I knew. And I called her and she told me, and I'm like, what? What do we know? Nothing. We know nothing. This is what they told Destiny. Destiny's 4 hours away. I'm the only one here. And I got Destiny on the phone, and we decided that it would be best that I go get his stuff out of his room before things started to disappear or what. We didn't know really a time frame of when they had discovered him dead. We didn't even really know if there was an investigation. We knew nothing, right, Destiny?
Yeah.
So I had to go to this motel. And it was during the week, and I had no help. And I said to myself, I can't go there by myself. For one, I'm not going to be able to move all his stuff. I had no idea what I was walking into. None. So I called one of our friends, Sal, Shits and Giggles. He's supposed to be up here today, but he's not here. I don't know. Maybe he'll be in the chat at some point. I said, hey, friend, he does some volunteer work for my nonprofit. I said, do you have a minute? Can we go do this together? I don't think I can do this. And he said, sure. So we went to that motel, and in the interim of going over there, Destiny was told at some point by the coroner, oh, yeah, you can go get his stuff, but just know there's a little bit of a mess on the floor. The coroner, right, Destiny? Tell us how this went down, that the coroner removes your dad's body, tells you, oh, yeah, you can have people go get some stuff. Oh, but by the way, yeah, there's a little bit of a mess on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Did I have that wrong? Or is that
you're
pretty
right.
much how that went?
Yeah, that's how it went. So I talked to a guy at first, and he just advised that someone needed to be there to pick up his stuff as soon as possible. Like ASAP, get it out of there pretty much. And I'm like, well, I'm 4 hours away. I don't know what to do. I can't get there right now. Said he would seal off the room till I got there, but be advised there's going to be a mess. And I was like, okay. So that's when I had called you so we could make a plan to what we're going to do, because I couldn't get there. So I'm thankful that you went. And I don't know, I feel like they were just very inconsiderate of feelings. They were just awfully, awfully blunt about things. I'm sure that's how they have to be, but that's how it was.
No, that's not how they have to be.
I feel like they
absolutely not
need to be a bit nicer, for sure.
Show a little compassion.
Some empathy.
There was none.
No.
From the word go, from the frickin' get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So I go to the motel room. Sal goes with me and helps me. By the time we're done, there's a hell of a lot more questions than there were answers.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And yeah, there was a mess on the floor. And if I didn't have Sal there that day, I would have shut the door and turned around and left. There was no way I would have been able to do it. But Sal, man, he plowed through it. And we loaded everything up, including Cowboy's bike. There's some things you need to know about Cowboy. This man rode his bike everywhere, uphill, all day long, everywhere he went. He walked. He breathed normally, never coughed, rarely smoked cigarettes if he found them. Was not a heavy meth user. Yes, did turn to meth. That was his drug of choice. From time to time. Was he hurting anybody else while he was doing that? No. Was he out thieving? No. Was he complaining about medical conditions? No. Just his head injury and how he would have headaches from time to time. He did crash his bike once. Somebody hauled him off to the ER. I have pictures of that. And he'd hit his head again. Right. So I think that sparked that head injury again. But this was a very active man. And I think my thing is going to die. So let me know if you stop hearing me. It's important that you know that I am the one that connected him with medical services. Steve had been to the doctor through Colorado Coalition of the Homeless, Stout Street. During COVID, when he was living out on the streets, we had very candid discussions about getting the vaccine with a lot of people out on the street, because they were bringing medical teams out on the street to essentially convince all of the homeless that they needed to be vaccinated. They were literally vaccinating people that really couldn't give consent. Yeah, it was bad. And when I was around, I would simply say to the people that I knew were able to process and make good medical decisions for themselves, hey, you should probably know what's going on there before consenting to that. It's really easy to think that medical professionals want the very best for you. We're not going to go down a huge rabbit hole on COVID and the vaccines, but I am going to state my position very firmly and strongly. I am thoroughly against forced vaccinations. I am thoroughly against the vaccine itself. Was COVID real? There was a virus. Was the government's response appropriate to a virus with a 98% success rate of survival? Absolutely not. Okay. Cowboy was one of those individuals who had told me, no, I'm not interested in the vaccine. I'm just fine. I ain't been sick. You can hear him right now, huh, Destiny?
Mm-hmm.
I don't need that. Hell, if I needed that, I would know that. And look, I get along just fine. And I do my thing every day. I ride my bike. I do what I'm supposed to do. Blah, 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 right? You can hear it. Those are the conversations we had.
Yep.
Well, when I had taken him into Stout Street, somebody convinced him that he needed the vaccine. So he did it. And this was kind of in a time period where he and I were having a little bit of a falling out. And yet he kept coming back and needing some help with some things. And of course I would. Okay. But in April, he needed a ride from the Stout Street Clinic. He had been there a second time. And he got a booster.
Yep.
Back in April. And I, for one, have mysteriously lost in my life 3 very close friends who were fine before they got the vaccine. One who had a pretty significant heart issue and went ahead and agreed to get the vaccine. Her death was unreal and unexpected. And now Cowboy. So in the back of my mind, for many months now, right, we're trying to process how Steve died. We finally got the coroner's report. And we're going to bring that up and discuss that here. And we're also going to bring up the police report that the Adams County Sheriff's Office produced and ended up being hell on earth to get this report to begin with. Destiny and I were trying very hard to divide up all of these things that we needed to try to get answers to. And she is exceptionally overwhelmed in her life. Full-time job, single mom. Destiny, I don't know if you want to add what happened in the middle of learning after what happened after your dad's death.
Yeah.
That you ended up having to deal with.
So my dad passed away in the end of June, and in the beginning, I have a 4-year-old daughter. And in the beginning of July, I had found out that my daughter's dad had passed away as well. So that was really rough. I had 2 deaths very, very close together. And it's been a very traumatic time for me. And it's all very hard to process. But things are getting better and we're getting through it. So we're doing good over here for now. And I wouldn't be able to do literally any of this without you. And I just want to know I appreciate you so very much. I can't tell you enough that I appreciate you so much.
You're very welcome. And it's prudent to me, too, that you be empowered to get these answers for yourself. I don't ever take over or step in or step on toes when it comes to families, ever. I've dealt with death before, and I think this is important that people know this. I will never interfere with the family's wishes of how things should transpire when it comes to getting answers. In fact, I want to empower the families to get the answers themselves, because that knowledge is power. And there is, of course, a next of kin issue. However, as next of kin, you are very entitled to involve any representative or advocate in these dealings. And you have asked for help. I have responded. There have been no nefarious things going on in what we're trying to accomplish here, except, boy, we sure are being treated like there is by the Adams County Coroner. And it's pathetic. And we're almost to the point, I think we're still going to have to do it. Destiny's going to have to get a power of attorney to allow me to be able to ask these questions, because the coroner's office will not respect her wishes. So I want to dive into that coroner report first. Destiny, we just got it. You just got it the other day. Sent it to me. What was that like when you opened that?
I actually didn't open it yet. I sent it to you first, and then I opened it after. No, I've read it now, but
Okay.
I didn't open it yet. I sent it to you first, and then I took a break at work, and then I read it, and then I was pissed. Pissed off is what I was.
Me too.
Yep. I'm angry.
I don't know about you, but when I've got this deep hurt, one of the first emotions that I deal with is being mad.
Mm-hmm. Yep, me too.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's okay. People frown on it. Oh, you shouldn't be mad. You're angry. Bullshit. More people should be mad.
Mm-hmm.
Because it gets you into a process of being able to grieve properly.
Yep.
Because through this process, Destiny, were you getting good responses from the coroner's office with the questions you were asking?
Nope.
Multiple people dealing. If you even got a phone call back, you can't even talk to anybody at the Adams County Coroner's office. You have to either send a freaking email or call from 8 to 2, and hopefully they might answer their phone.
Yeah.
Right? If their answering service doesn't answer their phone. This is how government in Adams County is dealing with death. A freaking answering service. I shit you not.
Yep.
When I went to the motel, there's this seal on the door. Do not break, per the Adams County Coroner. I looked at Sal. I said, wait, they told Destiny we needed to come get his stuff. What am I supposed to do? He's like, I don't know, let's tear it down. Let's just go in. I'm like, wait a minute. I mean, yeah, next thing cop's going to be over here. I said, let me call. I call the Adams County Coroner's office. Freaking answering service.
Mm-hmm. I
had to leave a detailed emotional message about going into this man, and you don't have any freaking buddy to talk to me? What in the hell? And so I hung up the phone. We waited like 20 minutes. The sun is blazing hot. The smell coming out of that room. I'm in tears. I'm like, Sal, I don't know what to do. Let's leave. He's like, bullshit. We're not leaving. And we went in that room. Eventually, they called me and left me a voicemail, which I have saved to this day. Oh, yeah, no problem. You can go in that room. I had no idea what I was walking into. And when we say mess, it was more than a mess.
Mm-hmm.
There was a huge huddle of what Sal and I describe as fresh blood on the floor. And it was as red as blood gets. Okay? And I'm thinking to myself, somebody murdered this guy. And Sal's like trying to jump through it all to get his stuff. And I said, just walk on the bed. I don't know how to get to his stuff. We can't walk through this. This is what the Adams County Coroner left us to deal with. With no support, no nothing. So eventually I said, fuck this. I took all the bedding off the bed and I threw it onto that. So we could walk through the room and collect his belongings. Back to that coroner report. Destiny, what do you want to say about it?
I'm ready. Let's read it.
All right.
Let's go.
We're going to split the screen. Destiny wants to be done as soon as,
I'm fine.
around 6 o'clock.
They're watching football.
Okay.
We're good.
Okay. I just want to be respectful.
No, we're good. Absolutely good.
Okay. So bear with me here. All right, here we go. And I have Destiny's consent to share this. This is a matter of public record, okay? Anyone could access it at this point. Monica Jordan, she's the chief coroner. She has nothing to do with being a doctor or anything, okay? My number one concern right here is the opinion. Notice that this doctor states he bases his opinion on the scene investigation, okay? Examination findings and history available at this time. Cause of death, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Contributing factor, methamphetamine use. Well, no shit. Anything can be a contributing factor to the lungs. Anything could be a contributing factor to the kidneys, right? But what caused the death? They're literally telling us that this man had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Not one time did Steve ever have a cough, complain of difficulty breathing. Destiny?
No.
Starla?
Nothing about that.
Not at all.
Did you ever see or hear any wheezing, thinking, Steve, your lungs are in bad shape, dude?
No, he was healthy, other than his brain trauma.
This is just, I'm looking at this going, what? Okay, and so it gets worse, you guys. Let's go to the very last page. We'll go back up. Pathologic diagnosis. This is what we waited how many weeks for, Destiny?
14 and a half weeks.
Look at this diagnosis. End stage chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. COPD emphysema. What? I have some medical background. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend to be a doctor. However, end stage chronic obstructive pulmonary disease requires oxygen. It requires almost round the clock care. It can mean, in most cases of end stage COPD, that you are bedridden, that you are unconscious. Right?
Yep.
Right. So, did they even do an autopsy? I really think it's a fair question. So we just want some answers to this autopsy. But because of the way that the coroner's office has been acting and handling this case, I have absolutely no trust. Do you, Destiny?
Not one ounce of trust for them.
And when you are so nasty to people, as Sharonda Appleberry has been to myself and Destiny, does it matter that she sends a shitty email and tells you, if you want a second opinion, you can go ahead and go pay for that. You're entitled to do that as the next of kin. This woman sends Destiny an email after I make a phone call to her the other day, and I'm going to play 4 minutes of this phone call for you. Sends an email to Destiny just bad-mouthing me. She was an emotional train wreck after our phone call, and instead of taking control of the conversation and listening to the words that were coming out of my mouth and saying, you know what, all I need to do is call Destiny and we can work this out. We can get a release of information going here. This woman doubles down and sends a heinous email. You should see the email thread going on right now. Right, Destiny?
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what to say about this. Irish Rover. My mom passed due to COPD. Cowboy didn't have it.
Well, here's the thing. If he had COPD, how could he ride his bicycle day in and day out?
Exactly.
I had just seen him days before. He'd left both Destiny and I voicemails. I talked to Steve on Friday before his death. Okay, so this is the major problem with this autopsy. We don't have to go into huge further detail. Is there anything else that you want to say about this, Destiny?
No, you already hit on the key points of the autopsy report. Oh, you can go to his levels if you want. It's very bottom page.
Yeah, I feel that's important too.
Okay. This is minimal stuff. right here.
Very minimal. Tiny.
This is like he hasn't smoked some weed for a few days. It's like he, hadn't had some meth for at least probably 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
He had some blood alcohol concentration, barely any.
Tiny. Could have drank a beer.
Yep. The degenerative joint disease, vertebral column. Okay. That makes sense.
That's
the contusion
of the cowboy life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The contusion of his tongue. Here's what Destiny and I think happened. And I think Starla agrees. I think we've all talked about this. Steve had a heart attack if there was no foul play. He was in bed. He got up to go get his cell phone to call for help. Because I feel very strongly that he knew something was wrong. What that was, I don't know. But the manner in which his body was found, and when Sal and I were in the room, fully lends to him getting out of bed and trying to get to his cell phone, where he had it plugged in on a plug on the floor by where his body was found. Who is the pathologist? That's Dr. Cena over in Adams County. Press for transparency. You asked that question. Okay. Clinton, you want me to put the email chain out there? Not yet. Eventually, we probably will. Okay. There's a lot of emails flying back and forth between the county commissioner, Sharonda, thinking that she should include the sheriff, and the county attorney in chastising Destiny and I, thinking, I guess, we're going to be intimidated. I don't know. Destiny, every time she called to try to get answers about where his cell phone was found, why he had on the clothes that he had on when he went into the coroner's office, when I was told by the motel staff who found him that he was fully dressed. We can't get answers from the Adams County Sheriff's Department. Okay, let's go look at that for a minute. Are we there? Can you see it?
Nope, it's still the autopsy report.
Okay.
It hasn't changed yet.
And another thing that I don't understand is how can they put methamphetamine use when there is minimal found in his system?
Well, what I've learned, and I want to say great things about the Denver Coroner's Office. Oh my goodness, if you're gonna die and be treated with dignity and respect, die in Denver. I mean, how heinous is that?
No,
I mean, if you need medical help in Denver or police help or 911, you need those services. Make sure that's not going to happen in Denver. Just make sure you're going to die in Denver if you want your family to be treated with dignity and respect while you're laying in the coroner's office. That coroner's office is top notch in Denver. And I've learned so much through them. And I will tell you that anytime any substance is found, right, it has to be included in that autopsy, especially in the pathology report. Now, what's interesting about this is that since they found that meth and they found his lungs not in good shape, perhaps, boom, there's our diagnosis. They had that man diagnosed before they even performed the damn autopsy, is what ended up happening. This was a homeless man. They knew it. The cops knew that from the motel. They knew what program he was in. The coroner knew that by the time Steve got to the coroner's office. They, of course, didn't include that in the autopsy, that we knew this individual was living homeless. But we found meth, and these lungs don't look good. So, boom, there it is. There's the diagnosis. That's what they did. Okay? That's exactly what they did. Did he have bad lungs? Maybe. Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that what he died from? And what did Sharonda do? Doubles down in the email to tell Destiny. By the way, Sharonda copied me on the email after she told me she wasn't going to give me any details. Yeah, Sharonda ended up copying me on the answers to the questions Destiny had about how did my dad actually die. And Sharonda's not even a damn doctor, but Sharonda made it a point to let her know that because there was meth found in her dad's system, that is not natural, and that contributed to his lungs and his death. Well, holy shit, Sherlock, really? Really? No, they're using the meth and the substance that they found to be able to justify the diagnosis that's bogus bullshit. If that's even what happened. Back to the sheriff's department, there was no investigation done. Okay? There was no investigation done. And when I started questioning that, holy hell, the gaslighting began. Detective Wilson over there at the Adams County Sheriff's Department, when I said to him, did you review any of the surveillance footage from the motel? There were no cameras. Actually, Detective Wilson, yes, there was. I went back out there. So did you review? You sound angry. Yeah, do I? Yeah, and you could cut the attitude. I said, oh, can I? Because you don't want to answer my questions. I'm done with this conversation. I don't have to put up with this. I said, oh, hey, Detective Wilson, you're going to have to put up with a hell of a lot more than this. That conversation went nowhere. Called his sergeant. Come to find out, you guys, the criminal report couldn't be released because it hadn't even been signed by a sergeant. Right? When I got records on the phone one day and I said, why aren't you giving me this report, Adams County? They're like, it's got to get cleared through the sergeant. And there's issues with this report. I said, really? Okay, can we get those cleared up? Because I've been asking for this report now for quite some time. This whole event took place one morning, and I ended up getting the case report after a hell of a fight. This sergeant had the responding deputy alter her report. She had listed Steve as a victim. She had also listed that he died under suspicious circumstances and that she was calling for a homicide investigator to the scene. Let's go through that report. That's what we were supposed to do here.
Real quick, Regan, I want to
go ahead. Go ahead.
What Aurora Transparency said, that they think that the people, because they're homeless, aren't cared about. And that's far from the truth. You know, they're human. They have families. They have a daughter. They have friends. But it's their own pride and embarrassment that keep them from reaching out. But that doesn't mean we ever stop loving them. Ever. And that's what a lot of people in the high ups think. They're homeless. They have nobody. And that's far from the truth.
It is far from the truth. However, when it comes to government and law enforcement and all these people up on a pedestal, who are you going to believe? The homeless person and their family or government?
Yep.
Sick of it. Here's the police report, the sheriff's report. So that motel is in unincorporated Adams County. So there is no local municipality that oversaw this death investigation. It goes to the sheriff's department. Here it is. And I will also say this woman, deputy, is a horrible report writer. Hey, cops, I yell about this all the time. These are legal documents. They need to be accurate. Look at this. The location, Unada, Colorado. What? Okay, so that's the first indication here with this woman's report writing. But what's supposed to happen in law enforcement, these are supposed to be reviewed by your commander, by your boss. And he's supposed to go, okay, what in the hell is this, deputy? You're not in Unada, Colorado. You need to fix this report. And now because you've already entered it into the system, now you need to write a supplemental report and list why you're having to alter your report. That's what's supposed to happen. Okay. So here are some persons that they interviewed. Okay. That's what all this is. Persons involved. Then they get down. Here's some more people they interviewed. Now, I don't know if they interviewed these people or not. They said they did. I talked to one guy who said that, yeah, he had been asked some questions about who Steve was. Nobody knew who Steve was at that motel. All these guys essentially were waiting for housing. They kept to themselves. Cowboy hated it there. He told me, I don't know anybody there. I don't want to. I don't want to be involved with anything there. It's not a good area. Cowboy wouldn't even go to that motel all the time. He was staying out on the street because he was safer. But he went back to that motel for the weekend. I don't know, for a reason, I guess. I don't know. Let's get into the narrative here. On 6/27 at 10:35, Deputy Preciado, responded to a DOA at the Super 8. On scene, I saw the fire truck and the ambulance. They advised that the cleaning assistant let them borrow her key to gain access inside of the room. When I approached the room, I could see flies coming in and out of the room. The window was slightly open with a stop lock on it. I could smell a very bad odor coming from inside the room. When I opened the door, the room was slightly lit. I turned on the bedroom lights and I could see many flies flying around in the room. I also saw a male, later identified as Stephen Olson, lying face down with his hands above his head. He was lying towards the far eastern end, just to the west of the bathroom. Stephen was lying on top of a red box that was filled with miscellaneous items. Stephen's right arm was tangled on one of the black cords that was connected to the plug just to the right of him. There was a black rolling chair behind Stephen to the south end of the room. Stephen was to the right side of the bed. There was a dark coloring of blood coming from under Stephen. The blood did not look dry. It looked fresh. Stephen's left leg was a dark purple and had a bubble form to it. Stephen was not wearing any shoes. He had on a pair of gray briefs and a black shirt. When Stephen was flipped over, face up, okay, in your report writing, you might want to really get to the point here of when you flipped him face up, deputy, right? I mean, come on. There was a very bad smell coming from him. Stephen's face was very dark color. Stephen's tongue was sticking out and very swollen. The skin on both of Stephen's arms was slightly coming off. Stephen's right arm was a very dark red. Stephen's stomach was also a dark red color and covered in blood. The skin on Stephen's left leg was peeling off. Stephen looked very bloated from his stomach. There was no forced entry to the room. That's fine. The hotel personnel provided us with a key card to get access inside of the room where Stephen was. The room was about 20 by 80. There were 2 queen-size beds about 2 feet apart from each other. On the north end of the room, there was a television on top of a dresser. To the right of that, there was a refrigerator. It was sitting inside of a wooden stand. Inside of Stephen's room, there was a lot of suitcases. On the first bed closet to the entrance of the room, there was a suitcase with unknown items. Next to the suitcase to the southern end of the bed, there was a box with different types of videos inside. And yeah, what do you mean by different types of videos inside? Okay, because I got these videos, and they're a bunch of DVD movies that somebody pirated. There's hundreds of them. Okay. But I find this type of indecisiveness that she's writing in this report to be pretty inflammatory. Okay. This could mean a lot of things, and words have meanings. On the bed, there was a receipt from the Family Dollar, time stamped on 6/23 at around 1500 hours. On the bed, there was a container of cupcakes that was more than halfway empty with the expiration date of June 15th. Which I guarantee you Cowboy went and got expired food from the food bank, took it there. On the north end of the room, there was a bicycle with the front end facing the front door. Of course it was a bike. He rode it everywhere. There was a wallet, a few chargers, a court document, don't know what that was, and some other papers. In between the beds, there's a nightstand. On top of the nightstand, there was a Monster can. Next to the Monster can, there was a receipt at the Circle K right behind the motel. Stephen was lying face down under a table. Okay, that contradicts what she said earlier.
Mhm.
Under the table, there was a red box filled with unknown items inside of it. I did not notice any foul play or anything suspicious. There was no obvious trauma when I found Stephen. On the top of the table, there was a microwave, a magazine. To the left of the table, there were various cigarette butts. The motel room had no working AC. Oh, low and holds. Surprise, surprise. The middle of summer, let's stick homeless people in a motel where regular people wouldn't go stay at because there's either no hot water, no air conditioning, There were no visibly cameras on the floor that Stephen was on. Across from Stephen's room to the west, there was also no cameras. Not true. She didn't look hard enough. I knocked on room, blah, blah, blah. I knocked on room, blah, blah, blah. Talked to all these people, blah, blah, blah. They said he keeps to himself and does not talk to anyone. The crime lab was advised for investigation. They took pictures of the motel room, which, by the way, let's note that Destiny asked for photos. She was told no through the coroner's office, that if she wants photos, she can go get a court order. Yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. They also took pictures of Stephen once he was flipped on his back. Who flipped him on his back and when?
Mhm.
They collected the receipts that were left inside the room. I took pictures of the room before paramedics moved any items. Detectives was advised for investigation because of how Stephen was laid face down. It looked suspicious on the way he was found, and the fact that Stephen had been laid out for a few days, but the blood still looked fresh. Okay, this woman is pretty much shouldn't even be a cop. If you cannot write reports that are legal documents, you can't be a cop. That's just how it should work. But unfortunately, it doesn't matter because of governmental immunity and them never being held accountable to shit. However, why didn't her command staff make her rewrite this report? That's one of my questions. And so when I got the sergeant on the phone, I asked him a couple of these questions, and he too began gaslighting me. Ma'am, you sound upset. I don't know this, and I don't think that you this, and you that, and you this. No, this isn't about me, buddy. So are you going to answer my questions or not? He turned into a dick, of course. I told him I was going to file a complaint with Internal Affairs. That I did on July 20th. A very detailed complaint, followed their process. Hasn't even been acknowledged that they received the complaint.
Mhm.
Shocking. That's where we're at with the criminal investigation. So the next step, we're going to be looking for body cam footage, Adams County.
Mhm.
Okay. Not going away. Let's talk about this coroner's office a little bit more. Darla, Destiny, you have anything to add to that?
I don't think
Oh
so.
no, you touched on it.
Do I need to emphasize any more on what's going on in this sheriff's office? I mean, so we have some other deputies that wrote some stupid shit.
I think what cracks me up is the grown flies.
And the color of the doors.
Yeah.
Right. So that was written by the actual detective who was gaslighting me.
I mean,
Here's
they can
his
go into
report.
detail about that, but she wrote hers really stupid. I just don't get it. Imagine writing a police report on somebody you pull over and doing that.
Yeah. I mean, and we really have to have debates about why law enforcement destroys people's lives.
Yep.
So here's Wilson. He's the detective that I had on the phone. This little asshole and his sergeant are the two that I filed the specific internal affairs complaint on. Of course, investigate ourselves. We have no recourse as citizens. We just don't. We just have to keep escalating it. And the truth of the matter is, we're never going to get the truth from Adams County because they've screwed this up so bad already. They're going to double down. That's what they do. Adams County is a horrible place, I'm going to add. There are so many stories. If you want to take the time to Google things that are going on in the Elijah McClain case and what that autopsy and all of that is around that case, which, by the way, those cops and those EMTs are on trial this week. It's intense. Adams County Coroner has been the subject of scrutiny in many, many instances. So it really falls down to elected leadership. And this Monica Jordan, she's on her third term over there. She's horrible. People just vote for their guy, Democrat, Republican. That's how we're running the country now. Has nothing to do whether or not you're competent. Oh, that's my guy. She's a Democrat. I'm going to vote for her. She's dumber than a box of frickin' rocks. Can't pull her head out of her ass from getting fired from the coroner's office years ago. Is on a personal vendetta to make every man pay the price and get down on their knees and praise her. This woman is literally running a Mean Girls club. And we're going to go look at some of those Google reviews here in a minute. And Destiny, Starla, if you have to go at any point, you're just pipe in.
Oh, okay. I'm just
Okay. We definitely don't go over 2 hours on our streams. Everybody pretty much knows that. So here's Detective Wilson. I was informed of a suspicious death. When I arrived, I could immediately smell the overwhelming odor of death on the second floor. There were several fully grown flies flying around an open window and cracked door to the hotel room. I was told the deceased, possibly Steve Olson, was in the corner of the room, face down, halfway inside a basket on the floor. How many different stories have we told so far about how Steve was turned over?
If he was turned over, how was he face down?
There was 3.
Who turned him over? When did they turn him over? Why was he found in a basket? Why was he found in a container? I don't know. Deputies already had completed a canvass of the neighboring motel rooms. The hotel was has recently been painted a gray theme. Okay, thanks, Wilson. But the doors on this floor were still the dark brown color from before the update. Mm-hmm. Now, I know observations are important. I get that in report writing. I understand why he has to talk about fully grown flies, because in body decomposition, it has to do with, maggots and flies. And in the coroner's report, or somewhere in here, it was noted that Steve's body had come into the corner with maggots on it. And that should have never happened. The lock, the handle, the striker plate, and mechanism all appeared to be undamaged. Well, that's great. So you can document that there wasn't forced entry. But who had the key cards? This is a key card motel, everybody. I compared the door to others on the same floor, and all appeared in similar condition. The window deputies found open was cracked a couple of inches. Yeah. Once inside the hotel room, I found purchased items and receipts from the end of last week, the most recent from the evening of 6/23. The room was messy, but not in a way consistent with a disturbance. There were no drugs or alcohol immediately noticeable inside the room. Nothing inside of the room stood out as suspicious. Prior to leaving, the coroner investigator completed a cursory examination of the body. She did not recognize any immediate signs of violence. So then they list the stuff that they found. Paraphernalia. They found no drugs in that room, everybody. I want to make that very clear. No drugs were found. Okay?
And didn't they find the paraphernalia in a bag underneath the bathroom sink? I think it said somewhere.
In a box on the nightstand, I guess.
Is that where it was at?
Yeah, this box on the nightstand. And that was pretty much it. Right? So there are so many questions to come out of this police report. So many. Number one being the first on scene responding deputy. She should be writing supplemental reports. She shouldn't be altering reports because her sergeant told her to remove Steve from being a victim. That is the reason that records could not release the report to me to begin with. It hadn't even been signed by a sergeant. It hadn't even been reviewed. And I requested it. Many weeks later. So that's that. Let's kind of wrap up and talk about this coroner a little bit. I want people to see this. For those of you that have any interest in understanding the Adams County Coroner, we're going to want to mute. I think are those your text notifications?
That was they're my email notifications. I'll mute myself.
Okay. Google reviews of the coroner's office. You guys, I just went in today to read those. Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm getting distracted here trying to share my screen. First, let's start here. Okay, here we go. Here's the Adams County Coroner website. Here's Monica. She's the elected coroner there. Here's Sharonda. Yeah, we've been dealing with Sharonda. And here's the rest of the crew. Here's Dr. Sina, the pathologist that signed the diagnosis of end-stage COPD. Go Google him and some things that he's been involved in. But this guy's done like 8,500 autopsies as compared to the other pathologist in the Elijah McClain trial right now, who states he would have ruled Elijah McClain's death a homicide, but he's only done 2,500 autopsies. So that makes Sina far more credible. Imagine, if you will. But anyway, here's the people that we're dealing with. Destiny, wasn't this the original investigator?
Yes, Angela Greenberg. I've spoken to her numerous times.
And what was that like dealing with her?
She was actually pretty nice to me, and then I tried calling her desk number again because she gave me her like personal number to get a hold of her. Always went straight to voicemail every time. So then I finally emailed her, and then she said if I had any more questions to email them, and then she answered my questions as best as to her ability. And
now, weren't you asking some questions around the scene?
Yeah.
Right. And what did she keep telling you?
And she was the one that said I needed to get a court order if I wanted any pictures.
Mm-hmm. And she also told you that you need to go back to the sheriff's department if you want answers to the bulk of the questions that you were asking, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And isn't she the one that told you it'd be 10 weeks for the autopsy report?
Yeah, 10 weeks.
Yeah. That turned into what, 14 and a half?
14 and a half.
Hold on. Here we go. All right. Hey, everybody. Let's read some of these reviews. When we got on here earlier, they were at a 1.7. I thought, what the heck is going on? So I started going through these reviews, and they're bad. This place is in bad shape. They have one written review with 5 stars. They have a couple 5 stars with no text, right? With no commentary. 3 years ago, I want to read this one. We need to read this one from 3 years ago. Given the nature of this business dealing with individuals in mourning and emotionally insensitive due to the loss of their loved ones, you would think this place would be more organized, empathetic, and helpful. They lacked all, and they failed to understand that kindness goes a long way. My brother and I flew in from across the country after finding out that our father had suddenly passed. This place was no help whatsoever, and we had to call so many times, wait on hold for so long, and leave messages that seemed to have no priority to them. There was zero accountability or sense of urgency, and even though they said they would be able to release our father's property to us, they told us before we flew out, once we landed, they said they couldn't, and we were misinformed. And so we couldn't get into our father's apartment to start the whole process that was beyond emotional enough. Really made our loss of our father so much worse. Afterwards, they didn't provide any follow up or information on our father's death. Basically, they just held our father's body and his property from us and made everything harder for us by being extremely and unnecessarily difficult with horrible service. Deb, the lady who answers the phone, and Sharonda were so rude. Worst attitudes and not sensitive to your needs at all. They need to consider hiring kinder people who have a heart. I'll never forget this experience. Yeah, that was 3 years ago. If you guys want to go in and read the rest of these, please do. I left one today.
You don't have it pulled up here, Regan. You still got the
You're not
picture.
seeing that?
No, it's the picture still.
Oh boy. Hang on. Oh, it's because I have to start over each time. Okay. There. Sorry. I've been reading this whole time. Anyway, yeah. So here's those reviews. So they're down to a 1.6. I left a review. Destiny left a review. Pretty much sums up everybody else's reviews on here over the years and recent reviews are saying the same thing over and over, how poorly they were treated. Check this one out. I work for a funeral home on Central Standard Time back east. And we had a decedent who passed away in this jurisdiction in the summer of 22. We had to have them shipped into our facility where they were originally from. This office was not helpful, rude, and passed blame onto anyone else they could. Our decedent was delayed in transport. Death certificates took actual months to get signed. At one point, someone from this office told my director to mind his own business. That's essentially what Sharonda told me as well. When we attempted to find out information for the family of our decedent as to why there were so many delays, we were told it was the hospital's fault. It was the shipping company's fault. It was anyone and everyone's fault. But facts turned up that the coroner's office was actually at fault. We were told that the coroner at this office did not get along with the doctors in the area. And when we spoke to several professionals, both hospital administrators and funeral directors, we were told that this was not a new phenomenon when dealing with Adams County Coroner's office. We were understanding and tried not to pressure anyone, but the family deserved answers, and we as a professional industry needed to provide that. In my personal opinion, which is why I haven't listed my company's name, someone for sure needs to make sure this office is overhauled come next election cycle. It was pathetic and stressful, both for our offices and for certain that of the family just trying to do right by their family member. And that was 10 months ago. Guess what? Monica's been voted into office again. I shit you not. Why? Because people don't pay attention. They blindly vote. Listen, people, if you don't know shit about the person you're voting for, leave it blank. Better just throw your ballot in the trash if you are that much of an uninformed voter. FFS. For fuck's sake. Hey, Bouncer, how you doing? One last thing that I want to play is this phone call from Sharonda. Is there anything else that I missed that I said we were going to talk about or that we wanted to talk about?
You want to read Destiny's?
You want to read your review and mine?
Yes. Sorry. Gotta go back to that. Okay. Why am I getting so confused over this? Hold on. Just bear with me here. There we go. Yes. Let's go back to Destiny's. I'm sorry about that. Adams County Coroner's Office doesn't even deserve 1 star. Amen. My father passed away in June of 23 in Adams County. I waited over 14 weeks for his autopsy and toxicology report when they stated it would take 10 weeks to get it back. This office is operated very poorly, and if you leave a voicemail, they probably won't respond. They must have a rule to where they are not allowed to show any compassion or empathy to grieving families. When I got my father's autopsy report back, I reached out with some questions regarding some medical terms and how they got that conclusion. Sharonda Karen Appleberry, seriously, a very rude and snarky lady, reached out to me via email with answers to my questions. During the email, I felt as if she was belittling me because I do not have the knowledge that she does. On that note, Sharonda has zero knowledge. Sharonda's not a doctor. Sharonda's Monica's secretary. And Monica apparently allows Sharonda to run the show because Sharonda has even copied Monica, the elected coroner, on emails. And the coroner herself hasn't even responded. I feel as if they are hiding and leaving a few things out of the report because my father was just another homeless person. Wrong. Long story short, I would not trust this place with your loved ones. And here's to that point, Destiny, we don't get a choice. Literally. In life and death, you are born into government control with a social security number, and you will die with government control.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
You don't get to show up at the scene of your father's death and tell government, get the hell out of my business. You don't get to do that because you'll go to jail. So government gets to have full control over telling you what happened to your dad. Look where we're at with that. Look where we were at in life and death with government in charge of every freaking aspect of our lives. Here we go. Irish Rover. Excellent review, Destiny. Amen. That's right. So, here's a little snippet. It's 4 minutes of a conversation with Sharonda. I'm going to play this for you. Hopefully you can hear it. There's a longer conversation, I will add. However, there is a very important part of this conversation, and it has to do with the law. And I want to know how many people can catch what happens in this conversation with Sharonda.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. So what you're doing is stonewalling because there are questions about how those determinations were made. So instead of, excuse me, you're interrupting me. I let you talk. Can you let me finish talking? Can you let me finish talking?
No, you didn't. You interrupted me, okay? You have no problem doing that. I explained to you clearly what is going on. No one is stonewalling the legal next of kin from getting that information. You made it clear that you were the person with the question. I made it clear to you that we are not going to discuss his autopsy report and his medical history with you because you are not the legal next of kin. If Destiny has questions, she can email them from the email that she used before. That is very clear. If she has the questions, you're expecting that we answer your questions about someone else's medical history and autopsy report, and you are not the legal next of kin. This is just like the neighbors that call us of someone and say they want to discuss that. This is no different from that.
Can I talk now?
What else is there left to say? You're wanting us to do something. You're wanting us to change a standard of practice for you. So I've explained to you what the options are.
So can I talk now?
I've explained what the options are.
So I can't talk? Is that what you're telling me?
Did I say that? I just told you.
Then answer the question. Can I talk now?
I did just answer.
You didn't answer all of my questions.
This conversation is not productive.
You didn't answer my questions.
I did.
No, you didn't.
What more do
I
you have to
asked
say?
you if we
What
could get
more do you
Destiny.
have to say?
Are you going to let me talk? I asked you if we could get Destiny in a three-way call.
No, and I answered your question for that. I
So-
answered your question. I told you what the options were.
So it has to
that
be done
option.
by email? It has to be done by
Why
email?
it has to now be done by email is because you called trying to add yourself into this that did not need you because Destiny did not include you in
interesting.
the first place.
Interesting.
She did not include you in the first place.
Is there a release of information
email
she could
that-
sign to include me?
No.
No such thing exists. So then why did you bring it up?
Here.
So why did you bring it up?
When did I bring anything up?
That she didn't include me in the information?
My point is that you weren't included in any of this. And then we get a phone call from you trying to add yourself to it. My point to you, like I said before, is that you are not the legal next of kin. And just like any other person that's contacting us wanting to discuss someone's autopsy report and medical history that is not the legal next of kin, we do not do that.
Okay, that's fine. I'll respect that. But here's what's going to happen next. I'm going to go to the county commissioner's public meeting, and I'm going to put all of this on the record because you guys made a bogus diagnosis on Steve Olson. He did not have end-stage COPD, and you don't want to explain that. So this is not going to be a good look for Adams County. I'm trying to help Destiny and getting zero respect from any of you. Destiny's having an incredibly difficult time. No one wants to recognize that except me. I don't give up. Okay? So make sure you tell the elected coroner what's going to happen. Have a good day, Shawanda.
You as well.
Did anybody catch what Sharonda did there?
Oh, I'm on mute. But she was backpedaling. That's what that was.
So that's 4 minutes into the conversation. The first 4 minutes is her and I going back and forth. I'm not going to publish it right now because it's really irrelevant. She would not let me talk. Her secretary who answered the phone was a raging bitch. I didn't record that because all I wanted to do was talk to Sharonda because you, Destiny, had got a call back from her the day before after you had to submit an email to even get a call back. You were at work and then you had to leave work. You had some other things in your life that you had to tend to. And so Sharonda doesn't tell you when a good time to call her is or make an appointment with you or any of that. So you don't ever know when you're going to get a phone call back from the Adams County Coroner. And you and I are working together on this. Regan, can you please just try to get maybe we'll get on a three-way call. Maybe we can do something else. I'm like, sure. I hear what Destiny's telling me. There are ways to support people who are next of kin, and that includes a release of information. That is a legal requirement. It's legally recognized. It's not hard to do. It could come in the form of a piece of paper. They already knew who Destiny was. I very, very professionally introduced myself to that coroner's office as to who I was when the secretary turned into a nasty bitch, wouldn't put Sharonda on the phone. I told her to get a different supervisor, preferably the coroner, on the phone. She came back and told me that Sharonda will take your call. Sharonda had an eat shit attitude before she even answered the phone, because she had told the secretary to tell me that she was not going to talk to me. Okay. When Sharonda answered the phone, I explained it to her again, who I was, what my intentions were, and that I was helping you, and that I too had questions.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't care if I was a lunatic, raging, crying, not making sense. I don't care what happened on this end of the phone. Sharonda's professional obligation is to hear what's being said, wade through it, figure out how to work through it, and do it. not respond the way she did and continue to interrupt me, talk over me, talk down to me. I let her do it, really, for the most part. But that end of that conversation was exceptionally important when she recognized that I'm asking for a release of information. And what was her response? No. And then what does Sharonda do? Right after that phone call, sends Destiny a rip-roaring email about me and an unnecessary escalation. Destiny doesn't even know what the hell's gone on. And Destiny gets this email from Sharonda bad-mouthing me, right? This office is a disaster. And this has to do with grieving families and friends. And this is how they're going to respond. Okay, that's fine. Guess what, Adams County? I can do the same damn thing. So here we are. Destiny, what else?
I don't know. I really think we covered most of everything. And I did end up calling her back, and I didn't leave a voicemail because I was at work. And the number that she gave me was the answering machine, like the answering services number. She can't even give me her own number to call her back.
And so Adams County routinely gets away with not having to answer to the general public, pissing off grieving people who truly, the last thing they want to do is have more contention in their life. So what do? They go away. They go deal with their grief and the loss of their loved one, because nothing's bringing them back, right? Nothing's going to bring Cowboy back. We know that. But I will be damned if I ignore what has occurred here. And I'm not going to ignore it. What we're going to see is Adams County get dumber and dumber and dumber over this situation. And what are we going to do about it? What are our choices? Okay? I really challenge people to realize that it's up to the people to solve these problems in government. This is a people problem. We continue to allow it. We continue to vote these idiots back into office, right? I'm going to go fight. I'm going to continue to fight like hell until I feel satisfaction, okay? Because we're not getting the truth. And Destiny and I have a lot of other things that we need to work through as far as Steve's estate. We don't have thousands of dollars to go get a second autopsy on Steve. And even if we did, I don't think I would do it, because you can't trust anything that's been done. The man has been cremated. And what do? We let them get away with this. That's why they continue to do what they're doing. I don't know. Does anybody else in chat have any comments? Any questions? Irish Rover, Starlight Destiny, Regan, thank you for all sharing this with us. Hopefully answers will be coming. I have zero hope or confidence that we're going to get answers. We'll get answers.
There may not be the answers that we want, but there will be answers. But hopefully it'll open with the fire under them with Steve. They won't do it again to somebody else.
Thank you.
You put them on blast. They're going to be a little bit more meticulous next time and not just so quick to write somebody off like they were nobody.
Yeah.
So you're not only being the voice for Steve, you're going to be the voice for a lot of other people.
Let's hope. Let's hope. I mean, who knows how stupid they're going to get over there when Reagan starts, dropping F-bombs and pissing off cops and hurting their feelings, right? I mean,
we'll have the bond money ready.
Absolutely.
Their county attorney over there, I will say, I've dealt with her before, Heidi Miller. She's not stupid. Okay. And she knows how the First Amendment applies to government, and she knows it well. I guess Sharonda thought by copying her in these emails that somehow she would try
Make
to
yourself look good.
Yeah, or initiate some form of threat or punishment for our voice and involvement, right? It's not going to happen with that county attorney over there. However, I mean, she doesn't have control of elected officials.
Thank
And
you,
that's
Amanda.
yeah, that's the other thing that you have to understand is who has what authority in government, right? That coroner's office runs like that because of that elected coroner. Is that necessarily the view of the county attorney? No, it's not. And her job really is to protect the county from the people when they get sued. Are we going to sue them over this? No, because they have governmental immunity for everything they've done and will continue to do. They can lie. The man is dead. I don't know about this new sheriff, Gene Claps. I know nothing about him. I suspect because of my position of never trusting law enforcement until they can prove why they should be trusted, he's just another authoritarian dick. So we'll see what he's going to do about my internal affairs complaint. If anybody else wants some of that information on the professional standards of Arapahoe County, here you go. Right here. The Adams County Sheriff's Department. And I tried to call some of these people that day. Nobody was available. Nobody. They were either on vacation, their voicemail was full, or the administrative assistant, she did answer her phone. She had no clue where anybody was. So these are those people. Under resources and services is where you can go file a complaint. And this is what I did. However, I don't fill out all of my personal information. You shouldn't either. You don't need to reveal all of that to have a valid complaint when filing complaints with law enforcement. At the bottom of this form, you're supposed to describe what happened. That's what I did. I put my name, phone number, and email up above, and I followed these directions. I emailed this form to this email address. And then I emailed several more follow-up complaints to that email address. And I wrote a commendation for the records clerks because the sergeant threw them under the bus and blamed them for the reason he couldn't release the report. I imagine that. Imagine that. So, what else?
Sorry. I think that's really it. And I want to say thank you to everyone being here and joining us. And thank you for leading this discussion. Yes.
Absolutely. And we can do it again. And
I'm
thank
sure
you, everybody.
Going to want an update.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have lots to do and lots of work to get done.
Yeah.
So you'll see me probably over in Adams County next. So watch for that. We'll see what happens. Tuesday is the county commissioner meeting for public comment. I had some conversation with the chair of the board, Steve D. Oricio, who in his emails, I just asked him for some time so so Destiny and I could talk to him. He immediately wrote back and said, just give me the information and I'll contact the people that need to be contacted. Well, dude, it's not quite how that works. Yeah, he ultimately kind of redeemed himself and apologized for his lack of empathy and a proper response to Destiny. That place, the arrogance over there. So we'll see what happens Tuesday at the county commissioner meeting. I plan to live stream it. It is a public meeting. Watch it get canceled. Watch there be a malfunction. Watch only one county commissioner show up and they'll have to postpone the meeting.
It's all your
We'll
fault,
see.
Reagan. You
We'll
announced
see.
you were going to be
They're
there.
gonna know you're there, so they're gonna be like, "No, we're canceling."
And it's a long drive from here. It's going to take a while to get over there.
I wish I
And
could be there with you. I'd go with you if I could.
I know you would. And
sure.
so we'll see how it goes. They're just going to sit there and they're going to act like they're listening. Thank you for your comments. That'll be it. I have 3 minutes to get the whole story on the record. I might have to keep going
You
back.
talk fast.
When I write it out and I talk super fast, I can get a lot in
Yep.
3 minutes, you know? And then there's this whole thing about being able to redress your government with signage and proper protest and redress on public sidewalks and, you know, public places and things like that. So, yeah, interesting.
Mhm.
Interesting avenues for redressing government are still available to you. Use it or lose it. Ladies, thank you very, very much for your time. I'm glad we got to do
You're welcome.
this. We're going to
Good to
spend
see
some
you.
time together in the physical presence
Yes.
soon, I hope.
Yes.
And here, I got to play this music and see if it works.
Someone said check for warrants first.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We got to check for warrants in Denver. So Denver's the only place I
Gotta
can.
let me know about that.
I could truly check for warrants. It doesn't mean they don't have some pocket warrants.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that Adams County isn't going to get stupid, right? So, at any rate, okay, here's this music. Do you hear it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks for being in here, everybody. Have a good night. Happy Sunday. Mwah.